think about your last purchasing decision. Did you choose a brand that supported your values? Would you choose a brand that supports your core values or that matches something that's important to you? And today on Bizapalooza Chat, we're going to talk about how to take a stand with your brand. So we have the expert in brand advocacy. It's Stacey DePolo. She's a social media manager and the brand advocacy expert at GoDaddy. Stacey is passionate about the connections between brands and customers who love them and the causes that they care about. Stacey, welcome to Bizapalooza Chat.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This is such a long time coming. I've been an active participant and so delighted to be a guest here on this topic.
Well, you know, GoDaddy is the go-to brand. So I'm like really thrilled and honored that you've picked our chat to join. I know we tried to be a little bit edgy, at least on Thursday nights, but on Mondays, we really want to get into more small business topics, right? So talk to me about your impression about brand advocacy, where it's been and where it's going. Why is it so important?
Well, I think it really drives a lot of consumer decision-making in today's world. You may be familiar with the Edelman Trust Barometer, and if your guests aren't, they should look it up because every year our trust collectively in institutions, from governments, banks, even churches, is waning. And one of the few footholds we have left in this world of who we believe we can trust are other people like us. So being passionate about small business, that means other small business owners, and I do business with a lot of us. So when we stand for something that are shared values, we form tribes around those shared values, and that gives us the confidence to break through a lot of the fake news out there and self-promotional stuff that, quite frankly, we all stopped trusting a long time ago.
Agreed. So, I mean, but you know, when we think about brand activism, especially, it's all around like saving the world somehow. Like, you know, some of the brands that pop into mind, I think like Warby Parker, like the Bomba socks, you know, it's all about like making a difference in the world. Say more about that.
It is. I mean, brand activism can take so many different forms. At the corporate level, we just saw a huge example this week. It's ongoing and unfolding with Nike. And I think that's one of the more celebrated examples. One of my favorites is REI with their Opt Outside campaign that I'm a huge participant in. But at the small business level, I think small business owners have been doing brand activism for a lot longer than big corporations. It just wasn't called that. Many small businesses were actually formed around an act of advocacy. Method is a B Corp that I'm familiar with, and it was just a couple of guys who wanted to get people, they wanted to motivate themselves to clean, so they formed a whole movement around cleaning products that were safe for their families that they could trust and that would be exciting to use. So I think that we're in this era of unprecedented polarization, which is what makes the brand activism and advocacy seem new or more extreme, and it is in many cases. But we're kind of back to where we started in terms of word of mouth marketing, which is the oldest form of marketing, and that's the essence of brand advocacy.
Exactly. You know, I've just come back from content marketing world, and the reason I'm so excited about this chat, I was like, how smart were we to pick this topic this week with so much going on? But let me tell you, when people ask me what was content marketing world about this year, I have to tell you, it has been brand storytelling, brand advocacy, and brand activism taken to the highest level, which is why when someone says, what do you see is happening? I'm like, I think this whole thing of like taglines and differentiating, like that is like kind of, I don't want to say it's out.
Yeah.
It's something, it's transforming, it's evolving, because it's really about what do you stand for and can you attract those ideal clients who also stand for that.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. And storytelling, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm jealous that I wasn't at Content Marketing World, but
I'm sad because I missed you.
I'm picking up on it from all the tweets, and I love that aspect of it because y'all did a great job of sharing. Storytelling is just so core to modern marketing. And again, it goes back to ancient times, because that's how we learned everything in ancient times. And it's back to where we are today. When at the end of the day, you may not remember a tagline from a brand, but let me tell you something, the story that someone like me tells you about a brand is going to stick. So for example, I'm passionate about working for GoDaddy because it's a place where we empower the little person to take that little spark of an idea and just register a domain name. And one day that could turn into the next Amazon. And it could be any of us. A friend of mine, Sugar T, is a famous rap star here in the Bay Area. She's E40's sister, if any of you are fans out there. And she's been a GoDaddy customer for 20 years. She credits our website builder 20 years ago with saving her from the predicament that got me into web design, which was women having their whole businesses upended by dudes building websites for them. So she was able to build her own website, and to this day, she still uses our GoCentral web builder to control her own web presence, and no man or even an agency has control over her web properties, and that's something that she is really proud of. So that'll probably stick with you more so than if I told you what GoDaddy's tagline is.
Exactly. You know, it's this idea, and I'm a big advocate. I'm like the only marketing consultant that like doesn't want you to use me forever. I want you to be self-sufficient, and you know, and that's why I often refer GoDaddy, because it's, you know, it's just a way to make sure that you can have your site, have it be up, have it be taken care of, not some guy in the basement. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the opposite side. Well, I want to talk about both advantages and disadvantages of brand activism. Let's start with the negative first. What are some disadvantages? What are some things that can go wrong?
Well, I think if you are not really clear and you haven't done your homework in terms of listening to the tribe that you've built around your brand, or say you're brand new in business and you stick your neck out, maybe part of a bandwagon effect, you assume that your customers will agree with you. An example was, it's kind of a reverse example. Years ago, the gay community targeted Chick-fil-A because of a statement that their CEO made that was against gay marriage. And it backfired. And it turns out that the guy really knew his audience, and the fact that he stood firm on the right to exclude gay couples from enjoying the benefits of marriage, that resonated more with his customer base. And every year on the anniversary of that statement, lines of conservatives who oppose gay marriage line up to buy Chick-fil-A sandwiches. So it really can ricochet on you one way or the other. And until you know really in your heart, or through really good analytics and social listening, and there are so many tools out there that can help us avoid these mistakes if we avail ourselves of them, you can make some serious blunders. I've got some other stories I'm going to share on the chat that I think will be useful for people to tread lightly in these dangerous waters of sticking your neck out there. And there are ways to test the waters with all this data at our fingertips very easily before you have to make a big blunder.
You know, that's such a great point. Let's talk a little bit, like, so I don't consider myself an activist of any sort, really, right? But one thing I do consider myself to be is a huge advocate for small business owners. And that lands me on either side of the political spectrum, just depends on what the topic is. Because what I ask myself is this going to make it easier for small business owners to get customers, keep customers, support their community, support their family? If I see that it's not, I don't care where you're at, I'm going to like have a conniption fit. Mm-hmm. So how do you know, or how do you discover that area of advocacy for you, like what your business stands for?
Yeah, I think first of all, you have to get really clear on who your ideal customer is. And that is a big challenge for everyone. I'm actually still working that out for my consulting business right now, because I've done work for small businesses in the past, and now I work for a large corporation, and I want to be somewhere in the middle. So I'm still trying to discover the right ideal customer for myself. And I'm very out there with my brand because my history is as a grassroots organizer and an activist. So it would be inauthentic for me to really hide my true political leanings. But that's a pretty unique situation that I have. For most people, I think the way that you discover it is through looking at your data. Now, Twitter, where we are right now, is one of my favorite tools for that, because, you know, the half-life of a tweet is like less than 10 minutes right now. So you can't withdraw a tweet. You can delete a tweet, but believe me, you don't want to when you make a blunder. That'll go badly for you too. But you can float some balloons out there, so to speak, and even ask your community. Another even safer bet is to have a private Facebook group of advocates who you've gotten to know that maybe represent your ideal mix. And so I do that with some of the people that I hang out with. I'll go into their private Facebook groups and bounce ideas off people before I go to a public forum like Twitter. So getting that feedback, and anyone, no matter how big or small you are, can do that. And then at the opposite end of the scale, when I first started at GoDaddy, we had a variety of issues we were trying to address in a brand turnaround that we were in the midst of for some of our brand identity. We were a 20-year-old company, so we've really matured and changed over the years. And looking at all the different detractor issues, if you're familiar with customer experience management, we were able to parse out, these are the issues that everybody's complaining about. And here are the issues where if we make changes, it's likely to both energize our advocates and mobilize the right detractors to become advocates. So I think looking at influential detractors is really helpful, and dialoguing with them and saying, hey, you know, I know that you don't like this aspect of what we're doing, but what if we did this? Could we have a dialogue about it? Let's partner on making some changes to the issues that you've raised. We sincerely want to listen to you. And when you look at your detractors head on, or as one of my favorite authors, Jay Baer, says, hug your haters, the most potent advocate is a detractor who you've turned around. And I'm one of them. I didn't used to be a fan of GoDaddy back in the day for a variety of reasons that people probably know well. And if you don't, you can look them up. But I'm proud to say that I'm on the inside almost 5 years in. And a lot of the things that I was concerned about are being addressed. And that's precisely why I'm here.
Well, that's one of the best examples I can think of. So let's wrap this up with some concrete steps for a small business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about how a small business owner can sort of, let's go from the part of like, you kind of know what you're passionate about, and then how do you go through the process? And you talked a little bit about floating ideas. Now, what goes on beyond that? What are some steps you can take to sort of let folks know what your stand is on issues?
Sure. I think the most important thing is to be consistent. So Ted Rubin really inspired me with this idea, and he has some blog posts out there that I read as I was trying to sort this out for myself. And he said, you know, don't take a stand on every issue. If I see someone who's just constantly putting out every issue under the sun as it comes up, it really degrades the value of what you're taking the stand on. And that was inspiring to me, and a call to action, because I'm very much an activist. So I tend to be passionate about a lot of issues. So I think finding one issue to explore and experiment with at a time is really useful. And then looking at influencers in your space and checking in with them, like where do they go on that particular issue? Finding competitors, where are they going on an issue? Because you want to really, I think, use brand advocacy and activism to distinguish your brand. So not just jumping on the bandwagon of what everybody else is doing, and finding a really logical connection between what you do and the issue you're trying to take a stand on. So for example, years ago, GoDaddy went out in very heavy support for net neutrality during the big fight with the FCC in 2015. And our CEO at the time, Blake Irving, did a really innovative thing of cross-referencing the public comments that were made in favor of saving the net neutrality rules that we were fighting over. And it turned out over 98% of our customers that filed their opinions on that issue were in favor of the rules that were passed in 2015. So our CEO is able to put our statement out there saying our customers want this. So using whatever tools you have to really show the alignment between your product, service offering, or your tribe and the issue you're taking a stand on is really essential. Oh my gosh, are you okay?
I was so excited.
It's okay, take a drink. I'll just keep talking. So I'll just, until you give me the signal, I'll say that if you're trying to do this for your own small business, I think also looking at issues that your customers are talking about. So not just influencers, but every customer that comes through, and even just spinning off, you know, a lot of times we don't know what to do to follow up with a prospect, or especially a customer that's had a successful experience with us. A great way to engage a happy customer after a service experience is to ask them, hey, are there issues that you'd like to see me take a stand on? Do you know of any causes that it would really make sense? So if you're not sure, that's another way to go, is to really use that opportunity after a successful service or sale experience to really poll your audience. And when you involve your advocates in determining how you go about brand activism, they really get behind what you're doing because they helped develop the strategy, and then they're part of it.
That is such a great recommendation. I think in a side of a local business, one of the things that I would probably recommend is that they get involved locally to a couple things. And I love this engagement component, asking your audience, getting your customers involved. And that'll also help you determine exactly who your ideal customer is.
That's true. And it's such a good point to get involved locally. If you're a small business owner, I think the exception would be that almost all small business owners can tap into this national and global trend of shop local and really trying to keep dollars inside of our community. So that's an issue that's a real win-win, I think, for almost every small business, unless they're becoming ginormous themselves. But I think there's still a way to do it. I think of Beta Brand that's here in San Francisco as one of my favorite brands. And we, people that live here know and love Beta Brand, but all over the world people do. So, every year at holiday time when I need to go shopping for my relatives, that's just my go-to place. And it feels really good to flow my dollars into my community, into a brand that's being so innovative that shares my values. So encouraging people to shop local is a win, but then finding a local issue that's, something that everybody can agree on, like helping children not be hungry or get education, ending homelessness might be controversial in your neighborhood, but in mine, it's something that we all agree needs to happen. So there are plenty of ways that you can take a stand on a local issue. And then when you see that getting traction, it might lead to a broader position on a national issue or not. But I think the important part is to be authentic to yourself and never try to do something because it's trendy or convenient or you think you should do it. If it doesn't feel authentic to you, it's not going to work.
I can't think of a better way to end this video chat. Stacey DePolo, thank you so much for teaching us how to embrace brand activism, how to become an advocate, not just for our brand, but just to take a stand on something that you believe in. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be starting the Twitter chat, and I love this community. Thank you all for being part of it.